Now it's time for Starlight with Tiska Chopra and Nimrit Kaur. This session will be moderated by Lata Menon. I invite the three panelists to please come up on stage.
Good evening, one and all. It's wonderful to see everyone here. Before we begin, and I introduce you to Nimrit and Tiska, I just want to give you a background of the whole discussion that we're going to have. There's been a Facebook study where, they've done an analysis of the data and content consumed by their users. It's given a very revealing insight that majority of Indians are highly obsessed by A, B, C, D. A, not necessarily in that order. A meaning astrology, B, Bollywood, C, cricket, and D, disasters. That's peculiar. Bollywood, or rather Indian cinema, has been a nationwide obsession. And the output, the origins of the word Bollywood. It started in the 70s primarily because the output of Hindi cinema and Indian cinema was much more than Hollywood, which was originally the numero uno, but Bollywood and the Indian film industry outraced it. And it is now the world's most prolific cinema factory, producing about 1,000 films annually. And Bollywood and its subsequent spin-offs, which is Tollywood, Collywood, Mollywood, Sandalwood, etc., which has its origins from different things. Hollywood is a real physically existing place, unlike ours, but it definitely occupies a significant mind share. And we have come to a pretty important transition period in the film industry where India's crossing borders, not just in terms of marketing its films abroad, just not marketing and distribution, but also in terms of developing concepts which they're trying to localize, to suit and connect to the audiences across the globe. The interesting part is there are diverse threads of narratives which are existing now, and it's not just mainstream cinema which is kind of dominating everything. And that itself is a very promising trend. And to represent and explain this changing face of cinema, we have these two exceptional actors, Tiska Chopra and Nimrit Kaur, because they've been part of this metamorphosis and they continue to be so. Welcome, Tiska. Welcome, Nimrit.
Thanks so much, Lata.
This question is for both of you all because both of you all have come from very similar backgrounds. Both of you all have been outsiders in the industry, and you all have come in as total newbies to the industry. You all didn't know anybody in the industry. You must have come in with certain preconceived myths or notions when you entered the industry because you had no background. You didn't, as you said, you didn't know the vocabulary of theater, film, advertising, and you were a school principal's daughter, so education was a must and nothing else. And they just wanted you to go into higher studies. So how did you demolish these myths and preconceived notions during your journey towards becoming the actor you are today? Tiska, you want to start? Or Nimrit?
Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Hindu. Thank you, Lata. Thank you, everyone else involved in getting me here. Also a bit anxious because this is a most evolved and intelligent audience, and one can't just shoot off one's mouth and underline the fact that actresses are without brains. So one shall have to watch one's words very carefully. So my question, I bounce that back to you and want to ask, are you asking how I bust the myth, so as to say, within my family?
Within your family. Or within your family. Right in the beginning, it's within your family.
It didn't get bust. My father was a school principal who should actually have been an army general, and his idea of Hindi films was that if you saw a dubbed version of Attenborough's Gandhi, or we saw movies like Hathi Mera Sathi, which he assumed for some reason was like an animal film, which it wasn't. So, that's the kind of movies we saw. We saw movies like Atari and, very kosher movies which are okay for kids to see. What he didn't know, however, was when I stepped out a little bit with friends, I'd sneak in a movie or two, and then I'd come back home and shut my door and practice all the scenes one by one. I would practice like crying scenes, love scenes, even dying scenes. And they thought I'd gone mad. They thought put it down to teenage insanity. So then, when I first suggested very delicately over dinner that I wanted to become an actor, he said, "But that's so silly. And Hindi movies are so chi-chi. I mean, why do you want to do this?" And it was only after Tare Zameen Par came out that he got a modicum of pride in what I did. Till then, it was always like, I don't know why you're wasting your time. You can, still join the IAS and you can do something else. So that's as far as my dad's concerned.
What about you, Nimrit?
That's actually wonderfully progressive in comparison to where I hail from. So firstly, hi everybody. It's wonderful to be on this stage because I've performed here, as part of the Hindu Metro Festival. So it's particularly lovely to be here and be all cooler today, a part of a panel. It's super lovely. A special thanks to the Lit Fest, Mr. Mukund Padmanabhan, who's not here, but special thanks to him. And Lata, thank you very much for having me. I come from an army background. My father was that army person.
He's an army general?
He's no longer, around. But while he was, he did not have much of an opinion of the Indian film industry, to the point that we did not have a television in our house for the longest time. So the first film I really saw was Omen, and that was nothing, close to what one would want to do, So it was highly unattractive as a proposition. But I did know that, the performing arts really interested me. I was always a bit of a nautanki, as we say in the family. It was fun to be on the stage all the time, debating, dancing, being in plays, whatever. So yes, the profession was completely alien to me. It was as far away as Mars has been up until now. I think what happened was that I just recognized the idea that I really wanted to make a profession of what was a germ that I couldn't get out of me. I just loved being on stage. So it was something that attracted me after I passed out of college in Delhi. And it was a hard decision to make. It was not easy to admit that first to myself and then to my family, because my mother was just, she said, are you crazy? She said, don't you want a real job? So do you want to do this for 6 months and then come back and then you can be a CA or something more important, So that made a lot of sense. I think somewhere she still thinks it does make sense. But thankfully now things are better.
Yeah.
And it's been quite a discovery, and I'm still discovering.
Yeah, you can continue, Nimrit. How do you see yourself culturally? How did you culturally fit into this, in an industry which is known for its partying, its casting couch, its fake friendships, especially from the background that you've come from.
Yeah.
And did you lose, or did you have to alter yourself in some way, or how did you maintain your sense of normalcy?
I think army kids, I think it really, I've figured out why a lot of us are in the profession, We are brought up with no comfort zone, really. You kind of change your town, your school, friends, everything every 2 to 3 years, literally.
You
pack
some
your
place
bags
in Arunachal, no?
Inkyong. I have spent
Inkyong,
3 years in Inkyong as a kid.
Yeah.
So you don't really have a comfort zone of any sort, and you don't understand permanence, Which to me, in a very strange way, is heavily intrinsic of being an actor as a profession, of leading this life. It's such a nomadic life. I hardly know anymore what I call home. Home is where my cats are. I have 2 of them in Bombay, so that's home to me. But I think that is something that that has been very easy for me to adapt to.
Yeah.
So I didn't look at it as
the challenges of
the challenges. I mean, yeah, there were these preconceived notions which every family has, which everybody who does not belong here has, because all you hear of is the casting couch. You hear of the big bad Bollywood world or whatever. I've personally never been propositioned. I've personally never met anyone who's been propositioned. Those are not the problems that I faced or I saw around me. But yes, you hear about that stuff all the time. Absolutely do.
You had sorry.
I can go on for an hour, please.
Tiska, you mentioned an experience where there was a producer who called you to his room. And how did you counter that? I mean, this was like when you were at a shoot and somebody called you to the room and you had a particular strategy as to how you countered that. Can you further elaborate?
You haven't met anybody who's been propositioned? Hi, Nimrit. Okay, so my career wasn't doing that great, and there was this very famous filmmaker, and his reputation preceded him. It was expected that he would hit on you at some point. And I had a largish cameo in the film. And he turned around and said, no, you know, you're very lucky to be in my film. So at some point I turned around and said, sir, you know, luck goes either way. You're lucky to have me as well. I'm really committed to doing it well. I was sort of, my antennae were up, and I was expecting that at any moment he would say something, do something. So the Bombay schedule finished, and nothing happened. And all my friends were like, so are you okay? Did he say anything? Did he do anything? So I was like, no, nothing happened. Everything's fine. And then we moved to the US for the next leg of the shoot. And sure enough, my room was right next to his, on the same floor. And my alarm bells were ringing. I was like, oh no, something's going to happen now. So we started shooting, and there was this love scene with the hero. The hero was not interested in me at all because he was hitting upon the girl who was doing hair. And he had about 6 days to make good on that, because then his wife was arriving. So that just left, so the director's attentions were focused entirely on me. And the work was fabulous. He was taking intense, good close-ups, fabulous lighting. And he would shoo the hero away and say, "Tumhe aata nahi hai karna, side ho jao, main karke batata hu." And you know, we developed a kind of like a speed dial closeness. You know, it's like suddenly you're like so close to the person. And 2 or 3 days, nothing happened. And then the 4th day, he turned around and he said, "Sham ko aa jao, mere kamre mein, let's discuss the script." I was like, oh my God, here it is. This is the moment. And fortunately for me, his son, who was about my age, was an assistant director on the film. And the rest of the cast and crew was extremely young. And everybody had made a plan that day to hang out downtown in the city that we were shooting. And I made a plan with them. I said, yeah, sure, 8 o'clock, I'll see you guys in the lobby and we'll all meet downstairs. So then I went to the hotel shop and I picked up a large bouquet of flowers, a box of chocolates, and at 5 to 8 I left my room and I left a message with the hotel operator saying, any calls to my room, divert them to the director's room. And took the box of chocolates, took the flowers, and went into his room and gave him a big hug and said, thank you, sir, we're doing such good work, really honored to work with you. And now in the spider-fly relationship, you don't expect the fly to be so gregarious. The fly is supposed to be scared and a little shivery. And of course, the director was there wearing a satin lungi, kurta, sitting, waiting. But before he could open his mouth, the phone started ringing, and it kept ringing, and it kept ringing. So first it was this one, and then that one saying, listen, oh, sorry, sir, is Tiska there? And so it just continued until his son called. And he was then just too embarrassed. And he lost all his desire to discuss the script. And that was it. So I escaped. And we're best friends today.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think he got the sense of, he has a good sense of humor. So he got what I was trying to do. So that worked out.
This illuminating nugget and many such nuggets are there in her book, which is available in the store outside. We should continue.
Lata, your check is in the mail. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, cinema in India is like brushing your teeth. You can't escape it. Shah Rukh Khan's famous quote. And so everyone today is a critic. And every individual has a platform today to voice his or her opinion. How is this affecting cinema today and you as actors? You know, because you're getting feedback instantly when you're performing. It's coming on the net, it's coming on Facebook, or it's coming, you know, you're constantly getting reactions and blogging. So there's been a transition from how it was before. You weren't so accessible. You know, like there is a reaction and feedback. So how is it affecting?
I think I'm used to instant feedback because I've done a lot more stage work before I did any film.
Yeah.
So for me, my film experience has just been the one film that I've done, which is The Lunchbox. And
Peddlers as well, no? It's
Sorry?
not released. Peddlers is not released. But,
yeah.
But,
So
okay. We've not
so,
seen it.
So, I mean, for me, it's lovely to hear feedback. I love to hear what people have to say. In fact, I was part of an American TV series recently, and I haven't watched it. I don't get the channel. I've just been reading stuff on Twitter. I don't get the channel. Someone was judging me sitting there. So yeah, I mean, I've been reading the reviews, and I've just been reading feedback from people from across the world, and that gave me an idea of what's working, and somewhere I feel like it's a very interesting
I've seen Homeland and you were stunning in it.
Thank you, Tess.
Stunning.
So kind. Thank you. Really so kind. I'll take your word for it, and your check is in the mail as well. So yeah, I love it. I think it's great. Yes, anybody can write.
And do you think it's changing the kind of cinema that's being made because, you know, people are voicing their opinions on?
I think a lot is happening around cinema for it to change. Technology has become so much more affordable and easier to access.
Yeah.
You can pretty much pick up a 5D camera, and actors are always willing to work for free. So it's very easy to make a film.
And the whole democratization process, right?
Multiplexes, everything. You know, there is so much to choose from. It's a supermarket. So I think the consumer is becoming smarter. They know exactly what they want, and they spit it out if they don't like it. So you have to really be on the ball and be good at your game.
Yeah. Any comment, Tiska?
Vis-a-vis feedback?
Yeah.
Feedback's great. You can't take it all seriously because honestly, both criticism and praise can be destroying in many ways.
Yeah.
Praise more so. Criticism you can still course correct, but praise can lead you to a complacent spot in your head and make you think that you've somehow become really good, which is, I think, the beginning of your destruction and doom.
Downfall.
Because you become too comfortable.
Yeah, and not ready to work further or higher.
Yeah, and if you look at the risk of sounding Hollywoodist, if you look at the kind of work people like Marion Cotillard or Meryl Streep or Felicity Huffman or people like that are doing, then you're almost embarrassed by the kind of roles that are offered to girls here. They're few and far between.
Yeah.
And when you get them, there isn't enough of a process in place to be able to exactingly craft a character.
Yes.
You know, so it's always about it's like a film shoot is like a delivery. At the end of a delivery line, so you have to, you know, madam shot ready, and then there you go, and then you know,
perform.
So more like more in theatre, like we have a process.
Have
goes on for a few months, and you know, try on this, you try on that, you see if it works front of stage, back of stage, you try on voices, you try on body language. There's a whole lot of things that in film there's really no process.
I mean, but now films are changing. Now they do have rehearsals, and I think that process is, in some films, like in Lunchbox, you had a lot of rehearsals.
I think I was really privileged in a very big way. You know, it was a film where everybody wanted to make the same film. I think half the time there are different films being made in different minds. You're not in the same on the same set with the same script. So that way, it does not really stand for how things are. I think it's an exception. Yeah. I think what Tiska is saying is more the reality.
It's more the reality.
You're mostly surviving. You know, you're mostly fighting against. You know, things coming at you, whether it's being propositioned or whether it's just not having enough time, or, you know, time being wasted on random things like aapki look and balon ka rang and, like, you know, it's just, I mean, all that.
But now, that's my next question, because now you're having the democratization of cinema. You know, you're having films where there's crowdfunding, where like a Lunchbox, you had 17 producers across borders, across countries, all coming together, and the film had a fantastic release internationally. That helped the film getting released internationally all over. Such a, you know, big success it was. So, you know, you're having that democratization happening, which is helping these kind of new films to come up, vis-a-vis also having corporatization, which is like a Sony coming in and a 20th Century Fox and Disney coming in, you know. So what do you think is going to push this forward? Your take, like democratization or corporatization, which is going to push the quality of cinema forward?
I'm not sure if I'm entirely qualified to answer this very, very literary question. Oops. But I think it's got to be a healthy mix of both. From how I understand what you've asked.
Yeah.
I think it's got to be a healthy mix of both. However, I don't think corporatization is always the answer to being able to make a good film. Because where there's a corporate involved, there are different deliverables expected, you know. Yeah. You are expected to put a product together, the way I understand it. Again, it's a very limited outlook right now. I'm fairly new. So I think maybe you could throw better light on this.
Because you worked in both, like you worked in a commercial format and you've continued, you're doing a mix of both, I think, both kinds of cinema.
You know, somebody who's an actor, we're literally like the cherries on a cake and sometimes the icing, but never really part of the dough. We come in almost towards the end of the process of an idea, then the writing, rewriting, screenplay, dialogue, cinematography, a whole lot of other work is done, and then they finally cast. And sometimes, on occasion, one comes in early on and says, okay, let's try and make this film or that film, and help the process along. So to my mind, any process that happens, whether it is a crowd-funded or multiple people-funded film, so long as it gets made and there is not too much interference in the creative process, that is mandatory. And for that, you need a strong-willed visionary director who can actually lead the
ship, be a captain of the ship.
Be a captain. And so I had the pleasure of working with one such gentleman. His name is Anup Singh Batla. Did a film called Kissa, which was also with Irfan. It's coming out 20th of Feb. Oh, no, that's not a plug. I'm not supposed to say that. Sorry. You didn't hear that. I have another film coming out, but I'll talk about that not now, later. Okay. So, so Kissa was made with money from 5 countries. And it was the most amazingly funny situation because they decided to shoot in rural Punjab. And it was a partition, it is a partition film. So you had this German, very specific, precise associate director who was like, okay, shot ready, everyone, lock set, good to go, let's go. And suddenly in 1947 India, there's a young Sardarji boy on a bike, you know, fluorescent green Nike jacket, doing a wheelie in the middle of his frame and buzzing away, right in the middle of 1947 India. So
the detailing.
He broke down. He started crying. He said, I cannot shoot like this. I don't understand what is going on here. How can you shoot like this? And so it was, it was just insane. So in many ways, when so many different energies. So we had a makeup girl who was from Netherlands who would completely lose her patience because Irfan had to wear this moochie and he would keep sipping his tea and whatever she'd put would keep coming out, and he would keep sipping his tea and it would keep coming out. It would take her like 4 hours to put his, he's playing a Sardarji in the film. I'm not plugging the film. I'm not plugging the film. So it's interesting. It's more than how the film gets made. I think the important thing is that a lot of people across the world are coming to tell Indian stories, whether it's a lunchbox or it's a kissa.
They're all coming back to India to look for original stories.
Also, that's not just coming back to India.
Yeah. He is also of Indian origin, isn't he?
Anup is, but Johannes, our producer's German.
German, okay. But so, like Ritesh Batra is also of Indian origin who wanted to come back to make an original story, though he studied abroad. The whole thing was to come back to make an original story. He knew he wouldn't get that if he worked abroad, you know. So it made sense for him to come back here and do the story. Now coming to, okay, I'm not plugging in Kissa, but I know the story of Kissa being a thing about 3 daughters and the 4th daughter being brought up like a boy. And then the girl gets married to a girl, and there's some complications. That's the gist of the story.
It is.
Which is my next question, which is about women in independent India. You know, they're changing so rapidly right now.
Women?
Women in independent India, they're changing so rapidly. And do you think, I mean, this is a separate film which was shot in 1947, but I'm talking about present-day India. Do you think women and women's issues are adequately represented in cinema? I mean, you are talking about women's issues and women being represented, because you're acting in, you're coming as an actor now, you're a young actor in the film industry. Are you getting roles or opportunities to perform? Like, what were the kinds of scripts after you finished Lunchbox? I'm sure you'd have got many scripts to go through. What were the kind of roles that were offered to you? Did you get a scope or an opportunity to get?
Well, you know, I think I view films in a different way. Firstly, I don't think it's a platform to discuss issues at. You know, it's wonderful if the story integrally has something to say, and it could be anything. It could be something where you know, it deals with relationships, it deals with loneliness or just life. You know, I'm not sure if it should be or can effectively be used as a platform to discuss women's issues, as much as, you know, one would want that somewhere. But I don't know if that is something that people realistically in India today want to go to the theatres for. And I'm only talking from a very realistic perspective. I think it has to be a healthy mix of entertainment, good performances, and by the way, along the way, if you have something in the film that you take back, you know, something that makes you think about things differently. To me, it's more exciting to pick a film or look at a project or a script from that perspective. I would not pick up a film because it's let's say it summarizes the life of someone who's devoted her life to education. You know, as exciting as that might be, I would rather find another way to get to know that space.
Or a woman who's fearless, or some challenge that she's overcome. It need not be just particularly education.
I think things are changing for sure. I don't think you know, the kind of scripts that one reads today were around 10 years ago. I don't think that a Lunchbox could have happened 10 years ago. That way things are changing, of course, because many more films are being made. You know, so it's a very exciting time from that perspective. But I don't know in ground reality how close we are to this really changing. You know, how European cinema is, for instance. You know, you see so much more of issue-based stuff. You know,
2 days,
that
1 night.
works.
2 days, 1
I
night.
haven't seen it, but I've heard so much about it. You know, exactly. I don't think there's an audience cultivated yet.
The main character is a depressed woman. You know, it's like she's suffering from depression and how she loses her job because of that. And it's a brilliant story, you know. So you, 2 days, 1 night.
Marianne Cotillard, I think.
What do you say, Tiska? Because you're working with an organization as well, right? You have a trust which works on women's-based things. So do you feel that there's a need?
I think I should answer that question from 2 perspectives. One, from what is going on in the film industry as working actors, as what is the atmosphere vis-a-vis women who are working in the film industry. So that's one interesting way to look at it. Pay scales are completely skewed in the direction of men. Women get paid far lower than men do. Most films that are made out of the 700 odd or 600 odd that are made in the Hindi film industry have men at their center with women playing very decorative roles.
Mainstream,
My main grouse is that if about 200 or 300 years from now, my great-grandchild, as part of some history or art project, walks into some old studio and starts seeing films from the 90s to the 2000s, they will think that us women hung around water bodies wearing really small clothes without really intending to swim for a large part of their lives. You know, I mean, that's what they're doing. They're hanging around, you know, wearing...
Great.
So that is a sorry situation in terms of the kind of roles that women have to play. Where are the stories of so many gorgeous women here struggling between home and
striking a balance.
Work and balancing a tough husband or a mother-in-law or dealing with her teenage daughter or whatever else it is. Where are those stories? So that's the story inside the film business. What I'm seeing lately, I did this series called 24, in which there was a lot of young
modern,
crew. Very, very young crew. So there was
this was
women.
a television series 24, which was a remake of the 24, the international series, which was made in India by Anil Kapoor, right? Produced by him, directed by Abhinay Deo.
So in that, the unit was almost everybody was under 30. And there was young girls who were camera assistants, script assistants. There was girls everywhere. And
so you feel that's a progress.
That's a progress. However, till writing doesn't change, and more writers don't start writing. Hi, Anita. Till more women don't start writing for films. Anita Nayar's in the house. So till more women don't start writing for films and start telling our stories from the perspective of what the hell goes on inside a woman's head or life.
Women's representation.
And it can be fun.
Yeah.
I mean, look at like a queen. I applaud Kangana. I loved Mary Kom. All of this. Lunchbox. At least it's equal. You know, there's a 50-50. So that's fabulous. That's what you need.
Yes, a changing trend.
It should happen. Has it already happened? No. Has it started happening? I think
it has started.
A little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit.
So there's. It is often said that it takes over. It's a very famous quote by most successful people. It's been often said that it takes over 15 years to become a success overnight. Okay? And you started rather quickly in the film industry. You got an opportunity to work in a commercial film called Platform, again, opposite the actor Ajay Devgan. Things didn't work out the way you thought it should. How did you retrace your steps, you know, and rework your journey to becoming the actor you are today, and till Tare Zameen Par happened, where you played this wonderful role with aplomb? Even now when I see that sequence when you leave your son behind over there, I still get a choke in my throat. You know, it's a very emotional sequence.
Do you realize how many sleepless nights I spent thinking how, since I've made so many people cry, what bad karma I've earned? I really got to do a comedy now to wash that.
No, but I think you became the most understanding Ma. You played that role. The most understanding Ma Indian cinema has ever seen.
Wow.
Elaborate on that.
I've got to change that now. So actually, I think trying to force fit yourself into an industry, the 90s, mid-90s was probably the most rotten time for films. There's complete junk being made. And I walked right in from my school principal dad's house into a film set. And to say the least, I was most unused to 150 people staring pointedly at me and, you know, taking me apart piece by piece, trying to see if everything is looking fine for the camera. It can be disconcerting, that kind of attention, that kind of everything. It's just hard. As the work dwindled, I found my love for acting come up once again. And I found that the kind of vision that I had of becoming an actor, the preparation, the rehearsals, the workshops, the idea of becoming someone else was not there. We had so much makeup at that point that if you took me out, my makeup could stand by itself. It was just horrible.
Caked with makeup.
It was horrible. It was horrible. And
that's changed now.
It would take upwards of 2 or 2.5 hours to put on your face, and you know, it was just strange. And you'd get up first thing in the morning with 2 sets of false lashes and all of that. It was a bizarre time, and I was disenchanted. I was very square peg in round hole. I went back to doing theatre, and I think I found myself very organically there, and directors like Tigbanshu and along with Irfan, and these people saw some work that I'd done, and they said, okay, you know, you work with us. So we did a couple of these short telefilms that were a rage at that time called Star Bestsellers. So we did that, and those did really well. They were shown some 45 or 50 times, and
then you also acted in Mahatma versus Gandhi.
yes, I did a bunch of plays,
yeah.
And so so I think by, you know, somebody very close to me once said that you follow the craft and the rest of it will follow. But if you follow the fringes, which is the fame or the big car or the penthouse sea-facing flat, then you may or may not get that, but you will certainly be nowhere in your life. If you follow the joy of acting, isn't it the best feeling in the world to give like a delightfully felt shot? Nothing like it. So I think you go back to what you really enjoy and love doing, and the rest of it just sort of comes.
Yay, good stuff. From modeling to theatre to film, you took a very academic approach towards becoming the actor that you wanted to be. And then Lunchbox happened. You know, Lunchbox garnered so much global attention. It became such a worldwide success. It collected almost 29 crores in India and almost 45 crores abroad. And it won the Critics' Viewers' Choice Award in Cannes. And all of you all got so much attention and recognition. And your role, you played your role of Ela, the lonely housewife, with such stunning felicity. It's admirable. Congrats, Nimrit. I want to ask you your perception of playing Ela, that lonely housewife. How easily was it for you to abandon your vanity? Because you played a very simple girl. You totally went away from what you originally are. How easy was it for you to abandon your vanity? And you were very young. You were just much younger. You know, you were a young girl. You've never played, I mean, you played a mother in the film. You know, there was a lot of challenges to the role that you accepted.
I think I was very attracted to the idea, quite honestly. It was such a smashing script, for the lack of a better word, you know. I did not know who was going to play what. I knew that I had to do this film. It was a beautiful story that I just had to be able to tell. And as an actor, you're really a vessel, you know, and to be filled with something as beautiful and quiet as that, you know, it was just something that I was just waiting for, you know. And it was not hard at all. In fact, I had to take myself away from wanting to, you know, I wanted to put on much more weight and do like bizarre things like that. Because in my books, you know, that's the ultimate thing, right? You can do as an actor, lose a lot of weight or put on a lot of weight. And I was like, this is my moment, I'm going to put on...
There's another one, you can shave your head.
Shave your head.
Those are the big things, the big challenges.
But you let your hair grow, you did shape your eyebrows, you did all that kind of thing, right? You didn't wax, and I heard you just let yourself darken a bit. And
yeah, okay, it looks a lot more than I did then. But yeah, it was a delight to be completely unkempt, quite honestly. And as a girl, it's so liberating, by the way, to just use that one excuse, oh, I'm in preparation for a film. And you don't have to bleach, you don't have to do your eyebrows, no nails, no nothing. I loved it. And for months, I was living that blissful existence. And I was so unhappy when I had to go back to this life. Oh, yeah, it was very, very delightful, quite honestly.
And this is the one film, I mean, I must add this, that international authors, Kazuo Ishiguro, all of them have heard of this film. If you ask any author who's abroad, they seem to have heard of Lunchbox. Similarly, when Mr. Wong Kar-wai had come to the film festival in Goa, he's heard of the Lunchbox. No other Indian film, but just the Lunchbox. Congrats.
Thank you, Lata. So kind, thank you.
What compelled you to share your experiences of discovery, rediscovery in the form of a book? Acting Smart, your ticket to showbiz. Did your granduncle, Kushwant Singh, inspire you?
Actually, nobody in the family is an actor.
Okay.
You look left and there's an uncle who's written
No, in terms of writing.
There's an uncle who's written a book. There's a aunt who's published something. There's my dad who's written a couple of books. There's
oh, okay. So everybody's
writing things.
Everyone's a writer, not an actor.
And if you're not writing books, then you're at least certainly writing letters to the editor in the hope of getting published. So yeah, it's a family who's addicted to writing. So I think they're completely unsurprised that there's a book that's come out of me. Then, yeah, okay. So have you finished it? Have you finished the book? What's going on with the book? So you know, it's whatever. But it's the acting which is like, you're still acting? How's it going? And the book is not surprising to anybody. Quite frankly, it's. So yes, Khushwant uncle, who's my mom's uncle. Obviously, I'm a huge fan of his style of writing. He doesn't try and impress you at all. It's just pure expression. And that kind of writing, I think, comes along very rarely. Unfortunately, it's not by osmosis that you can absorb it. You know, you either have a skill in writing or you don't. And I had to struggle hard because I first promised my lit agent that I would write the book in 3 months. I said, yeah, it's no big deal. I'll write it in 3 months and give it to you. It took me 4 years. I was completely
flummoxed.
Yeah. It's not that easy to write a book. Particularly as an actor, you get your words written for you. You know, ये क्या script लिख के आए हो, इसकी lines कहाँ हैं, ये क्या है, वो क्या है. You know, you're constantly telling the assistant directors कि ठीक करो यार, ये कैसे लिख के लाते हो, अक्कल बताओ कुछ इसमें, ऐसे कोई बोलता है क्या line, लाओ मैं लिखती हूँ. So to change 2 lines or 1 line is okay, but to have the book from beginning to end, some 300 or 400 or 300 whatever pages it is, to have that in your head at the same time, I was exhausted.
It's the first book of its kind, right, in this space. I mean, to advise a novice in this field to come in. It's the first book of its kind, right? Have you?
I imagine so, yeah.
Yeah. And what's the feedback been?
Goodish.
It's being translated in Hindi as well, I've heard.
I think they're planning to, yeah. Something like that. It'd be interesting if it's translated into Tamil. Because then we could have a lot more people who are interested in acting going from here to there. And I don't think there's that much difference.
So any publishers here, that's a plug-in again for Tamil. Today you're acting in Homeland. It's an American TV series, a very provocative serial. And you're playing a Pakistani ISI agent. I mean, your father, an army officer, was killed in a terrorist. Why are they laughing? What's funny?
I'm guilty as charged.
Okay, sorry. Okay, your father, an army officer, was killed in the line of duty in a terrorist attack in Kashmir in 1994. I mean, did this create any personal angst? I mean, how do you, as a professional actor, deal with such kind of roles?
You know, it was very difficult to come to terms with that when we were growing up because I was all of 11 when that happened, and a lot of me didn't understand or even begin to understand what it meant to lose a parent to something like that. I understood that much later, and when I did, I figured that it does not have anything to do with a religion or a part of the world they come from. As is the norm, you know, it's very easy to be heavily Islamophobic in the world that we live in today. And we haven't been brought up like that. I think full credit goes to my mother. I know very well that you know, in any religion, any sect of society, any cultural space from anywhere in the part of the world, there are those bad apples, and they are there for a reason that only they know. I don't think that speaks for anything that that particular religion stands for. Now, having said that, for me, it was more exciting to take on this part that I played of this ISI agent in Homeland. I mean, not that I had friends in the ISI or terrorist buddies that I could just call and be like, "हाँ, तो आप कैसे preparation कैसे करूँ मैं इस part की?" So it was more exciting to look at her as someone who's a fierce woman in a male-dominated society. It's set in Islamabad, this series, the season 4 this time. And someone who just does not stop anywhere to get things done. And that was so menacingly fun. It was so much fun to be so bad, you know. It was very exciting to be so evil and to just get away with murder, literally so. And
must be the
you're getting paid for it. And you get appreciated for it. Like,
maybe
wow.
the terrorists should apply for such roles.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun having said that.
Good, good. Okay, now what openings do you see emerging for anyone in the audience, like any fresh actor who's trying to enter the industry? Like both of you all had been total outsiders. What trends do you see emerging? Like suppose somebody today wants to become an actor. Is it easier than it was when you entered the industry?
I'm not plugging, but you can always buy my book.
I'm going to.
But Nimrit?
I think it is easier. I think it's easier for people to break into, if your dream is to want to be on the big screen, for instance, if you just want to put it as simply as that, I think it's easier today. Because the medium's opened up, you know, you have a film like an Aankhon Dekhi, which is an astounding film. I don't know how many of you all have seen it. But I have, it's a brilliant film, and it's a film that was made on a very, very limited budget with many friends who are actors, and I know that there wasn't much money involved in the film at all, you know. It's just an example of how it's not that hard anymore to be out there with a good product and be a part of that product. So I don't think it's as hard as it used to be maybe a decade ago or 15 years ago. It's easier today, yeah.
Okay, I have this small challenging round for you all. Just one word answers three big challenges that you faced. One word.
Oh God, Jiska, can you please take this up while I think of mine?
3 big challenges. I think I was my biggest enemy. I think I was in a hurry.
One word.
Yeah, exactly.
Myself.
Okay, you were the block.
Bombay. Yeah, it was a challenge to begin with. It was someone I had to seduce. Bombay was a challenge. Now we're married.
Learnings. Learnings?
It's your dream. You need to protect it.
Dream, protect.
Learnings, huh? I think be yourself. There's really nothing like being yourself. Yeah.
And also everybody else is already taken.
Okay, qualities of Irfan Khan, the co-star you both work with.
Oh, I haven't worked with him. I just looked at him. I was leching at Irfan in that cafe. I was like, how does he do this here? How does he do this so bloody well? So no, I didn't have the pleasure to work with Irfan, really. We don't meet. No, we don't. We don't have one scene in the film. Yeah. I would love to answer that question after another film that we actually have a scene in.
You've done about 4 films, right, Tiska?
Yeah, I've done Kissa and I've done work with him previously. He said something which impacted me tremendously. He said you get success when you deserve it, not when you desire it. And the kind of love that he has of cinema, it's like, you know, I'm in Chennai, I'm thinking go to Seemati or go buy a few saris, do a little bit of shopping, have fun. He will go to the nearest archive and watch more South Indian films, more Tamil films. He will watch more films, and then he will watch films at night, and then he will watch films on his phone, and I don't know what he does. He's just obsessed with film, and it just kind of, you know, with the form of it.
Yeah,
and
the craft,
he's always been like that.
Yeah. Great.
When I first met him, he said, "ये वाली film देखी है तुमने?" So I said, "नहीं देखी." He said, "ये वाली तो देखी होगी." I said, "ये भी नहीं देखी." "तुम करती क्या रहती हो?" देखा करो film में. So he's like.
He's really interact. Distinguish the kind of acting you'll have done, like for advertising commercials, theatre, and film.
I love advertising so much. It's just blissful to get done in a day or two. You have such a good time. The kind of acting that really goes into advertisement is 5 expressions.
I'm in advertising.
It's, sorry?
I'm in advertising.
But beautiful 5 expressions. I love it.
Hot you.
आप बताइए अभी क्या बेचना है?
Abhi batao.
Abhi bataiye. Well, I think, it's different kind of water you're swimming. So for me, film ends up being more like a swimming pool where you have a contained environment.
Yeah.
You can more or less see what you are, where you're swimming. Theater is an ocean to me. I never understand what works, what doesn't work. You approach a role a different way. You land up on stage. You think something is so serious and people just break out laughing. And then you're like, what the hell just happened, guys? Like, this was tragic, right? But apparently it's not. So it's a beast. It's a different beast. Every time you're diving into that water, you're swimming a different stroke.
Jiska, your take?
I know advertising sponsors the kind of films I choose, frankly, because they pay shitloads of money and you get done so quick. And then if they want to play it for the next year, then you get paid again without doing more work. So it's just a happy place. And some very creative and fun people exist in advertising. They're lots of fun.
Me, one of them.
Yes. Film is something which you do with the subconscious knowledge that it is also for posterity. Because what you do now will stay. And it will stay a long, long, long time. And people have an elephantine memory when it comes to films. They just don't forget. They haven't forgotten the shitty first film I was in when I didn't know how to act. People still say, ab wohi platform wali ladki hai na. And I'm like, arey yaar, ab to bhool jao. Itne saal ho gaye, get over it already. I've done much work since then. But they're stuck to that. So films are hard work for that reason, that you want to just be so, give your very best. And theatre is just pure play. It's just pure excitement. I can't wait to start another play and then just, it's just you and the audience. You take their energy, no 2 days are the same. You take the energy of the audience and you give it back to them. And you don't even know what you're capable of because you're taking their energy. It's not your energy. And you're giving it back to them. So it's completely a alive thing.
Kind of,
and the sad part is that high that you experience, you need people to co-create that kind of energy, and you can't do that on film because film is shot
it's
piecemeal
isolated,
and isolated. So you can't create that kind of, so the kind of work I feel that I've been able to do in theatre, I'll never be able to do that in film. Yeah.
Great. We've had a great, exciting session with such wonderful, lovely women.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Have you allowed to have questions? Questions? Any 2 questions? If anyone has, one for Tiska, one for Nimrit, the lucky ones, any 2? Regional offers. Any regional offers?
No, none yet, sir, but very open to it.
Yes, I'm doing a Marathi film called Highway, which should be out later this year. Also doing a Malayalam film with a very fabulous director called VK Prakash.
Oh, VKP.
Yeah, with VKP. And some talks for a Tamil film. Rumba Nalla Irukka. So if it happens, way to go.
Yeah.
So my question is whether the media is playing a bad role in portraying women, because last year we saw a popular media house, tarnishing the image of a popular actor. So what's your take on that?
Example, anything?
Deepika Padukone's tweet last year.
Oh, that photograph, I guess, that one in the Times of India or something. She did something.
What's your take on it?
It's a double-edged sword with the media. We need them, but we want to show that we don't really need them. And that's bad. If we make our films and the media doesn't talk about it, and they don't write about it, then you guys won't know about it. So they're an important interface in the filmmaking process today, and they have to be respected as such. To my understanding, and this I only speak for myself, if you're honest with them and come out straight and say, you know what, I need this to be done or that to be done or whatever, then they're very decent people. It's when you're trying to be a little, I'm not speaking about Deepika per se here, that was a rare situation, a one-off. However, if you're playing over smart, and you call them when you need them and then play hot and cold and all those kind of silly games, then sooner or later somebody's going to call your bluff and,
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Hindu Lit for Life. It's been exciting.